Well, good morning. Welcome to the Alpine Church of Spiritual Living. Glad to have you with us this morning. I will be reading the thought for the week, and those in the room can join me as I get down to the bottom in the bold area. June is the month we celebrate graduations, Father's Day, and the beginning of the wonderful season of summer. It also signals we are passing the mid-mark of the year. In my mind, this calls for emphasizing all the things for which we are grateful. I mean, we certainly don't have to wait until November and Thanksgiving to acknowledge our blessings. Thus, the theme for the month is a hymn of grateful praise, with this Sunday's message being grace and gratitude. Whether we are aware of it or not, the grace of God is consistently being bestowed upon us without any sort of requirement on our part. Training my now 5-year-old granddaughter to say thank you has been an ongoing feat since she was able to speak. And I'm sure we're not the only family drilling please and thank you into a young child's vocabulary and attitude. Not that you need answer me, but how many of you were raised with saying a prayer of thanksgiving, usually called grace, as you sat down for a meal? Where has that small common gesture gone, as I suspect most folks no longer take the time or attitude to thank God and those who prepared the meal before devouring it? I was raised with a simple prayer of grace and continue to speak it before each meal. We thank thee, Lord, for daily bread, as by thy hands our souls are fed. Grant us to grow more likely to thee today and through eternity. Amen. If you're looking for a short and meaningful prayer of grace to say, please use this one. Expressing our gratitude brings our attention to the myriad of gifts life is continually pouring out to us. And as I've said many times, what you focus on increases. Therefore, if you focus on your blessings and being grateful for them, your consciousness expands in that direction, and more will be revealed. Not a bad way to live, in my opinion. So begin today, in fact, this very moment, to look around you to acknowledge gratitude in your heart and life for even the simplest of blessings. Say with me, today I open my awareness to the simplest of life's gifts I have been given. Life is good, and I am grateful, and it is so. And so here we are in June, and we're going to be focusing on gratitude. I think that this is a great time to do that, and I believe that we don't have to wait for any particular season to do that. And in fact, every day can be one of Thanksgiving. I have been reading, as I dabble in many different books at one time, have been reading Braiding Sweetgrass, written by Robin Wall Kimmerer, 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 I think. And the first sentence of her bio reads, Robin Wall Kimmerer is a mother, scientist, decorated professor, an enrolled member of the Citizen Potawatomi Nation. Jane Goodall wrote of the book, Robin Wall Kimmerer shows how the factual, objective approach of science can be enriched by the ancient knowledge of the indigenous people. It is a way she captures beauty I love the most, the images of giant cedars and wild strawberries. A forest in the rain and a meadow of fragrant sweetgrass will stay with you long after you read the last page. This book is very rich in many, I've got halfway through it right now, but so rich in the technology of, she's a biologist and ecologist, and she's a professor of that, and has written many papers on that. But this book is written so beautifully, the way she describes things. But what made me focus on gratitude this month is that one of her chapters is entitled The Allegiance to Gratitude. And she's talking about how the children, in our schools, say the Pledge of Allegiance every morning to the flag. And where the Native American children have been taught this allegiance to gratitude. And she talks about the fact that they have memorized this. Now, I'm not going to be going into telling you the whole thing because it literally is a whole chapter, and it's 14 paragraphs of something that these third graders recite this. So she said, the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag, they don't do the Pledge of Allegiance, but where she lives in New York, a few ridges west of her, is the reserve for the Onondaga Nation. And they begin the school week with and end it every time with this allegiance, Thanksgiving address. A river of words as old as the peoples themselves, known more accurately in the Onondaga language as the words that came before all else. This ancient order of protocol sets gratitude as the highest priority. It is said that the people were instructed to stand and offer these words whenever they gathered, no matter how many or how few, before anything else was done. In this ritual, their teacher reminds them that every day, beginning with our feet, what we touch on the earth, we send greetings and thanks to all members of the natural world. I mean, I know that most of us are aware of the Native Americans having that core energy and essence of the relationship to the natural earth, to Mother Earth, and the gratitude for it. And I know I've heard different things about the four winds, you know, and thanking and doing each addressing of the four winds. But literally, this prayer of gratitude beats the whole thing. I mean, 14 paragraphs. And I don't have it with me now today, but if you'd like, I can have it left for you next week so you can have it to read. But she writes of it, she says, it is at heart an invocation of gratitude, but it also is a material scientific inventory of the natural world. Another name for the ordination is greetings and thanks to the natural world. As it goes forward, each element of the ecosystem is named in turn, along with its function. It is a lesson in native science. So it's amazing to me that just by focusing on the different elements of this world that is around us, what an education that is to ground us in this recognition of how much we have been given to live on this earth plane. And every one of these paragraphs, each one is for the earth, and one is for the wind, and one is for, the different elements. But at the very end of each paragraph, it says, now our minds are one. Now our minds are one, which brings them back to the focus that, we're just not repeating these words, just by verbatim, but it's bringing your mind back to we are all united. Our mind is united as one. And she said, you can't say this Thanksgiving address without feeling wealthy. When we can sit and recognize how much we have absolutely been given in this life, and to know that it is at a basic level. I mean, so many times in our lives now, we get so enthralled with all the nuances and, watching QVC and all the goodies and all that things that we have, when in actuality, the reality of what we have here on this earth plane is so abundant. So as I wrote in the thought for the week, just that one little tradition, I think, has been let go in many households, of saying grace, saying thank you before a meal. And I had one of our congregants email me, and she was saying how that she read the thought for the week and said, oh gosh, here's the one that I grew up with. And she, rattled it out, she put it down on the email, and she says, look at that, I remembered it. And I said, yeah, but do you use it? And she said, okay, wise one, no, I haven't been using it. Well, it might be a good idea to do that and to acknowledge that When we focus on something, it does increase. And when we can focus on being grateful for just being here on this earth, and also to recognize, which is again quite a feat of the Native Americans, is that we have a responsibility to take care of what we have on this earth plane. I was reading about a story, it was a true story about a whale that got caught in fishing lines, and it was really bound up. And there were like 9 divers that went down to snip each little cord and fishing line away from this whale. It took quite a while to do it. Once that was completed and the whale was free, it swam off like everybody expected, but it turned back around, and every single person, I think it was all men, that were doing this clipping of the lines, that whale went up to it and kind of nudged it to say thank you. Each and every one, it did that too. And they all just were amazed, like, wow, nature has this innate recognition of gratitude. And it behooves us to fall into that knowing, into that pattern, into that awareness more and more. I have roses in my garden now blooming, and they're really profuse, beautiful, different colors and fragrances. And I have been bringing them in and enjoying them, in the house. And I've had this thing deep within me for many, many years, that wherever I'm at, if I pass by a rose, because if I take a lot of walks, I'll stop and smell the rose. And there's something in me that says, take advantage of doing this, because there will be a day that'll come when you won't have that opportunity. You won't have the sense of scent to be able to smell a rose. And so don't just pass it by, but remember that the gifts that God gave us, this Mother Earth that we have, is so lavish. And it is a privilege to live here and now. I believe that the feeling of gratitude is synonymous with love. I think that love has given us everything in this life, and it continually perpetuates itself. And when we can feel that gratitude, that is the love that is bubbling up within us. I want to give you an example of the power of blessing. There was a grocer that went to his guru one day in distress to say that across the way from his shop, there was a large chain store that was just built and that would surely drive him out of business. It had just opened. His family had owned his shop for over a century, and to lose it now would be his undoing, for there was nothing else that he was skilled at. So the master said, "If you fear the owner of the chain store, you will hate him, and it is hatred that will be your undoing." "So what shall I do?" asked the shop owner. He said, "Each morning walk out of your shop onto the sidewalk and give thanks for and bless your shop, accepting it for its prosperity. Then turn and face the chain store and do the same thing for it." "What, be grateful for and bless the competition and destroyer? Are you crazy? The gratitude and blessings that you give will rebound as your good. Any evil you wish on him will destroy you." After 6 months, the grocer returned to report that he had had to close down his shop. But he was now in charge of the chain store, and his life was in a better shape than it ever had been before. Life, God, love gives us what we have need of, what the blessings that we get when we can't even see it, when we don't know what it is that the best thing that life has to offer for us. But that is an example of how we can bring forth love in any situation rather than hatred, rather than fear, rather than any sort of restriction, and just remain open to what life is giving us and to recognize it. To say, yes, I am a blessing. Yes, they are a blessing because we are one. There is only one life, and it is living as all of us. And what we put down and what we fear in another is basically what we're doing to ourselves. And when we uplift someone else, we are uplifting ourselves. So I want you to be mindful this week of all the blessings that you've been given. Truly look around and see all of the abundance and the wealth that we are living in right here and now on this earth plane. To be grateful for it, to say thank you, and say the prayer before you eat, that it blesses your body and it blesses those whose hands prepared the meal. When we live in this state of gratitude, we are encouraging and blessing our lives and all others. So I want you to stop and say grace. I want you to stop and smell the roses. I want you to open your heart and your mind to an ever-increasing awareness of the bounty and the love that life gives us eternally. Namaste.